Here are the top 3 storylines from Arizona Cardinals training camp week 1. Number 1, Marvin Harrison Jr. versus Michael Wilson for that number 1 wide receiver spot. I don't know if they're ever going to actually announce if there's a wide receiver number 1 and a wide receiver number 2. I think LaFleur is going to say, well, sometimes Marvin Harrison Jr. is the number 1 option and sometimes Michael Wilson is going to be the number 1 option. But at some point, we're going to know the pecking order in the wide receiver room and who is going to start the season in the number 1 spot. Is it going to be Michael Wilson or is it going to be Marvin Harrison Jr.? And right now, Michael Wilson looks like he's solidified or making a really good run at that number 1 spot. Whereas Marvin Harrison Jr., we've seen highlights of his drops. We've seen highlights of his drops in training camp so far. He has flashed some incredible plays as well. But Michael Wilson just continues to be super consistent and continues to produce, especially with Jacoby Brissett as his quarterback. Now we obviously know that neither of those guys are the number 1 option on this team. And the number 1 option on this team is Trey McBride, the Madden 99 overall player, the all-pro tight end, one of the highest paid tight ends in football. We know that Trey McBride is the Arizona Cardinals' best player on offense. Really, and maybe by a large margin, although we'll see what the receivers and the running back room can do this year to close that gap. But there's long-term ramifications for how this specific wide receiver 1 race shakes out. Because the likelihood is whoever you decide is your number 1 wide receiver this year is probably the guy that you're going to invest long-term money in. And maybe the Cardinals can figure out a way to invest long-term money in both if both of these guys manage to prove that, hey, we're pretty good we're both really good wide receivers. Are we top 10 wide receivers in the league? I don't think we have a Bengals situation going on here where we have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. But if both of these guys are top 30 receivers in the league and one of them hopefully can elevate themselves into the conversation of top 10, it's probably more likely that it's Marvin Harrison. But hey, Michael Wilson showed that he can absolutely play. He showed that last season, and he's showing that in camp. So there are some long-term ramifications for who ends up earning the top wide receiver spot during camp. And it would be unfortunate if, at least for, Monty Austin and this front office, if that ends up being Michael Wilson, it means that you spent the number 4 pick in the draft on Marvin Harrison Jr., and he ends up being your second wide receiver. That is not what they envisioned for Marvin Harrison Jr. at all. And it feels like Marvin Harrison Jr. is the worst first round Ohio State wide receiver to not bust, but to not live up to the potential that he had coming out of college, which is just unfortunate. And hopefully he can prove us wrong and he can go out there this season and have 1,000 yards, catch 5 to 10 touchdowns. He and Michael Wilson can complement each other. And all of a sudden at the end of the season, we're saying, man, do the Cardinals have 2 of the top 20 wide receivers in football? I don't think that's what's going to happen, but I'm hoping that Marvin Harrison can really jump, and I'm hoping that Mike LaFleur can help him make that jump as well. Outside of that, the wide receiver room, it's going to be interesting to see who really assumes that third wide receiver position, because we know Trey McBride's going to get the ball. We know Jeremiah Love's going to get the ball. We know Tyler Algier is going to get the ball. We know James Conner is going to get the ball when healthy. We know Marvin Harrison is going to get the ball. We know Michael Wilson is going to get the ball. There's not a whole lot of room for anyone else, but the Cardinals are going to have times where they have 3 and 4 wide receivers on the field at once. Who is that wide receiver going to be? Right now, it looks like Kendrick Bourne is flashing as wide receiver number 3, but the Cardinals need at least a little bit of depth in the wide receiver room outside of Kendrick Bourne. So, how does the rest of that shake out? Obviously, we've seen Xavier Weaver. We've seen some other guys flash. I don't remember their names right now off the top of my head, but we've seen some other guys flash with Carson Beck as well, playing with the second and third string units during Cardinals training camp so far. So, how does the rest of that wide receiver room shake out? It's going to be really interesting to watch this. One, the wide receiver one competition at the top, but who's going to be the third and fourth guys this season in that wide receiver room? Because while they may have a marginal impact on the season, if you have good depth in the wide receiver room, it just makes it that much harder for offenses or for defenses to game plan for this offense, because Mike LaFleur can use so many different personnel packages. Whether we're playing 3 tight ends with Tip Ryman, Elijah Higgins, and Trey McBride, then you throw in Marvin and Michael Wilson, and all of us, or you probably have a running back in there. You have Marvin out there with Jeremiah Love. Like, that could be super fun. You could be in 12 personnel, and then you just have your 2 wide receiver ones out there with Trey McBride, Tip Ryman, and Jeremiah Love, or one of the running backs, one of the many running backs. I imagine we'll see a lot of 21 personnel this season as well, like 2 running backs, especially because Jeremiah Love is such a weapon in the pass game. I think we're going to see a lot of 21 personnel this season with McBride, the 2 backs, and then your 2 wide receivers. I think that's going to be really interesting to see what they're able to do with two running backs on the field with McBride and the 2 receivers. I'm excited to see some of that. There's so many different personnel packages that seem to make sense on this Arizona Cardinals roster. And the more I'm thinking about it, I sit here and I ask myself, this question. The Cardinals were clearly one of the poorest coached teams last year. And we did bring back the defensive coordinator, and he did also have a lot of unlucky injuries uh, with Mack going down, and with Will Johnson being in and out of the lineup, and Walter Nolan only played a few games. Darius Robinson only played a few games. There were just injuries all over the field last season. So maybe they get a better health season this year, and maybe the defense is better, and the the defense looks better, and it's better coached. Maybe that happens. And then the offense, I mean, you just look at the skill position on this offense, and you look at it and you just say, there's no way this team should have a 3.5 win total this season. I'm not now, let's be clear here. I'm not saying that this Cardinals team is going to make the playoffs. That's not what I'm saying at all. But this team has way more talent and should be way better coached, that it should be able to win like 5 to 7 to 8 games this season. Now, I understand they play in the hardest division in football. I understand that. And are they probably going to go 1-5 against this division? Yeah, probably. But they're also going to get to play some of the worst teams in football as well. So, right now, I'm saying it right now on the record. This team is much better than last year, and will be much better than last year, because the coaching is that much better, and they have the skill position talent all over the roster on offense, that this team is going to score some points. Okay. Storyline number 2. Where does Jeremiah Love fit in the running back room? We know he's going to play. He has to play. You drafted him fourth or excuse me, third overall. Wow. You drafted him in the top 5. He has to play. That's a non-negotiable. Now, do you want to give him 400 carries in a season that you're likely only going to win a handful of games? While I do believe it's going to be more than 3, I don't think it's going to be 10. So, do you want to give him so many carries, risk the injury, let him take all those hits? I don't think so. And I don't think the Cardinals think so either. I think it's going to be a slow process bringing him along. I think they want to make sure that he's absolutely ready before they start giving him heavy loads. And it's great because you have James Conner and Tyler Algier in that room as well. I mean, you look at that room right now, and it's got to be the best running back room in football. It might not have the best running back in football in there right now, but just 1 to 3, if James Conner can come back and be who James Conner has been the previous 2 seasons outside of last year, he's been 1,000-yard back multiple times in his career. We've seen Tyler Algier as be 1,000-yard back and then be a really good backup to Bijan Robinson in Atlanta. And he's been taking the number 1 reps in practice so far. And now you have Jeremiah Love, who has the most guaranteed money out of any running back in the NFL. We've seen guys go out there and say glowing things about him. Jacoby Brissett said there's a reason why they're paying this guy $50 million a year, and it's because he's so explosive and he's so special and he's so gifted. So, how does this room shake out? Does Jeremiah Love lead the Cardinals in carries this season? I'm actually going to go out there and say no. I think it's going to be Tyler Algier. I think Tyler Algier, he doesn't get talked about a lot because James Conner's been there forever and they brought in Jeremiah Love. But I think Tyler Algier might be the Cardinals' leading back this year. I'm interested to see how it shakes out going forward. But I think out of training camp, based on what Nathaniel Hackett has said, I think Tyler Algier is going to be running back 1 at the end of training camp. Now, could Jeremiah Love immediately take that from him like 2 games into the season? That could absolutely happen. But my prediction right now is that Jeremiah Love is going to be running back number 2 or running back number 3 on the depth chart week 1 of the NFL season, which is going to make a lot of fans angry, but it's not going to make me angry because we know that Jeremiah Love is going to be the guy in the future. But the Cardinals if they are tanking this year, which we're going to find out pretty early on if they're tanking this year. If they are tanking this year, it's not worth it to load them up with a bunch of carries. It's just not worth it. You got to save them for when you have the quarterback and when you have the defense that can go out there and compete in the NFC West. Then we can give them 400 carries. All right. The last storyline I'm watching is the development of Carson Beck because we believe with the Cardinals tanking or assumed tanking this season, we believe that at some point this season we're going to get to see Carson Beck because you have to see what you have in him going into next year because of how loaded that the 2027 NFL draft is with quarterbacks. So, how does Carson Beck look in training camp? Well, it's been mixed so far. He's been inaccurate in intermediate and deep passes, according to Tyler Drake. But he, in the first full padded practice yesterday, he showed some flashes. He really did. And If you've seen the highlights, there have been both good highlights and bad highlights. And could Carson Beck be the backup quarterback coming out of training camp? That's what I'm watching for. Maybe Gardner's the backup. Maybe he's not. Maybe Carson Beck can prove that he's ready enough to be the backup quarterback. Now, if Jacoby Brissett goes down in the middle of the game, I think Gardner Minshew is the emergency quarterback. I think that's who they put in midway during a game if Jacoby Brissett gets injured. But if Brissett goes down or they decide that Brissett's not the answer, is Carson Beck QB2? I think so. We'll see if training camp betters that